Are you happy with your relationships? And we can each think about the various relationships, hey mom, that we have, friendships, romantic relationships, parent-child relationships, the work relationships, and the ones that we wish we didn't have with people, and figuring out how to navigate those. And so I'd like you to reflect and answer in the comments if you want, whether you're watching this live or you're watching this later on. I will still be able to see the comments. What are some of the biggest struggles and challenges that you have in your relationships? The ones that pop right into your mind. Drop them below. I'd be curious to know. And if you're experiencing a specific struggle or challenge and you want me to delve into that topic, then maybe I will be able to. But I wanted to bring up that the basis of relationship health begins with ourself. We either need to learn when we're young how to receive, or we have to learn in adulthood how to receive. Consider the little 6-month-old, maybe 12-month-old who's being asked to share. Developmentally, they need to learn to grab and take before they learn that process of now being able to give back and to share. And the same is true for us as adults. If we only know how to give, and we don't know how to receive and hold on to at times what we've received, then we actually are going to be experiencing a deficit. Sometimes the purpose for receiving is to give, because of course you can't give if you haven't received. It's just not going to be possible, and it's not going to be sustainable for sure. But there's other times where we actually need to receive simply to receive. That there is something in that receiving that we need. And we just need to hold on to the gift that we're given and not give it away. It can be tricky to navigate that and to know when that's the case and when it's not. And so cultivating a loving relationship with ourselves will positively affect all the other relationships we have. Think about if we actually learn self-care, we learn how to stand up for ourselves, to speak up for ourselves, to meet our needs. We're going to be able to have better and stronger boundaries with other people because we've learned how to first support ourselves. Sometimes it seems backwards. Think about when you're on the flight and they say, if the oxygen mask drops down, make sure you've secured yours before you secure the one with the child that you're with. We've all heard that. We know they say you got to take care of yours first because if you're not there, you won't be able to help your young child. But I bring that up because I think it's really a good point for all of us as we're considering this idea. And if it feels selfish to you, or you've been taught that no, you should be giving. You shouldn't focus on yourself, on receiving. I am not speaking to the person who is very good at making time for themselves. And they're actually needing to focus more on others. They're needing to show up for the other people in their life. I'm talking about the ones who are not very practiced at that they will very quickly give to everyone else before meeting their own needs. That's the person that this message is specifically for. And so as we learn to take care of ourselves, we actually then positively impact the relationships with others. We do better at establishing boundaries. We can show up for them more authentically, less internally frustrated, because we're there because we want to be, not because we feel pressured or someone told us we should be, not because we're depleted and yet we're still showing up for them. No, we've taken care of ourselves, and now out of this extra, we meet their needs. That is how we will be able to improve the relationships with others. Now, will some people be bothered by our boundaries? Of course. And sometimes that's an indicator of how the relationship dynamic might need to change. But for you, the longevity of taking care of yourself will always pay off. Now, another point I want to bring up is that in relationships, we're going to be often triggered. And by triggered, I just mean there is an underlying subconscious belief and pain point that gets touched on. Say, for example, if I am feeling misunderstood and I'm trying to prove this point to them and it feels like they just don't understand, they don't know me, they don't get me, I might start speaking in circles and trying to say it differently and trying to say it more so that they understand me. Because at the root, I'm feeling this deep heart wound. And oftentimes, it's originated a long time ago when we were little kids. Something happened, or the experiences we had communicated to us in a way that we formed a belief. So perhaps I was truly being misunderstood as a child, or perhaps I felt misunderstood. But if I held on to that belief that people don't know who I really am, they don't want to know who I really am, I'm always misunderstood, I will start to actually look at others and see through that lens. I will listen through that lens as I have conversations with people. And it will actually solidify, because I already have that form bias, it will solidify that belief that, you know what, people just don't get me. They don't understand. And I will often feel a deeper level of pain because of that trigger. Now, the trigger for you could be anything. There's going to be a plethora of ways that we're triggered. But the point is, it comes up in relationships, and there's no way around it. But as we become aware when we are being triggered, then we can do something about that. So becoming conscious in any of these different areas, whether it's the boundaries we need to start making, whether it's the way that we don't support ourselves well enough, or the triggers that we're experiencing, as we become aware to these, we then have the ability, the power to do something about it, to affect the change we want to experience. And that's why a level of conscious awareness is so key on the healing journey. And it infiltrates all sorts of areas. As we understand, though, it can feel daunting and overwhelming, right? Think about, oh my goodness. So now I know the 10 ways that I'm most frequently triggered. And how does that help me? The good thing is you're not meant to do the healing journey alone. So as you have support, as you have community, as you're talking about, hey, you know what? I just discovered this is a way that I often feel a deeper level of pain when this happens, or when somebody does this, or when I see this, or when I hear this. Then we start to notice, we start to get curious about why that might be. We talk about it with the others that are in our community. And over time, it's a process, but we can start to heal and the pain level will decrease. Think about as you're healing from a physical wound. As you heal, the pain decreases over time. And it's the same with the healing journey. So I want to offer a question for your reflection. This might feel disjointed from what I was just saying, but I'd like for you to sit with this tonight or in the future. Do you let people have their own process without interjecting your opinions or your thoughts? Unless they ask. And if they ask you, do you still offer your thoughts or opinions with a level of awareness that, you know what, this person is wise, they have their own inner knowing, and I trust them in their process, in the decision that they come to. Perhaps especially when you actually are looking at the situation or considering the person, and you realize there is something that they don't see that you see. Do you still allow them to walk out their process with this idea that, you know what? They are wise. And they don't need my interjection to get it right. Perhaps what I think isn't actually the right way or the only way. That can be a very challenging way to live, depending on your conditioning and what you were told was appropriate. Think about the idea that people say, but if you're a good friend, you're gonna tell them, oh my goodness, look where you're going. If that's what you were told, right? It's gonna be really hard to go against that. But I bring this up because I think it's very important in relationships. And I want to ask you a further question. Do you believe that about yourself? Are you wise enough to make your own decisions and to listen to your intuition? And do you know yourself well enough to know what your body's communicating, what's going on below the surface? This is not about not needing anyone else, not looking for wisdom, not being open to other people's their insights. That's not what this is about. So I don't necessarily want you to get hung up on that. But there's something here that I hope you'll sit with and that you'll reflect on and ponder. And if you want to talk more about that, I'm going to dive into that in another live this week, where we just talk about how can you even trust yourself? How can you get to that place where you believe that, you know what? There is wisdom within. And what is my body communicating? So stick around and hop back on. And if any of what I've said tonight about supporting yourself, about learning how to take care of yourselves before you can give out to others, or this idea that we're triggered all day long, but there's something we can do about it, and that we can cultivate a deeper, more loving relationship with ourselves, which as a byproduct will positively affect the other relationships we have with others, then I want to invite you into the spring session of my group program. It begins next week. We will be starting out with a group session next Tuesday evening, and we will be meeting once a week for a group session, and there will be no more than 10 participants, purposely so that everybody has a chance to speak up if they want, to ask questions, to engage with each other and not get lost in a crowd. The point within my groups is not to get lost in the crowd. And you'll also be able to have a one-on-one session with me. They're very powerful, very impactful. Oftentimes, what people experience in a one-on-one session is lasting, deep transformation. And there is more to the package. You'll be getting resources as well from me. So if you're interested in this topic we've spoken about tonight with relationship health, is one of the 3 topics we're going to be focusing on. So what I've spoken of tonight and more will be all discussed within the spring session of the group program. So you can go to changeradically.com to learn more or to save yourself a seat. Or if you're at all interested in just like chatting with me about, hey, here's my specific situation, Corrine, do you think you're going to be able to help me? Just send me a DM. All right. So happy to have those of you who joined live. And if you are just watching the replay of this, like I said, go ahead and still answer the question about what are some of the greatest challenges that you're experiencing in your relationships, and do reflect within yourself about how you go about relating with others. Are you often quick to interject, or are you willing to just let them have their process, believing that it's okay to make a mistake? Yes. And that we don't always have all the answers. We don't always see it rightly. Maybe there's something that they need to do in their process that we're going to get in the way of. And then how also within yourself, how do you go about living? Do you trust yourself? Do you only believe it's best for you if you have 3 wise friends who say it's best for you? And I would love to hear if you want to share any of that feedback with me, send me a DM. I'm always interested. All right. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your night or day, whatever time you're watching. And I will be back on again this week to talk more about intuition and trusting your inner self.